Italian undefeated heavyweight, as they have a rematch from 4 years ago when Tyrell Biggs scored a decision win over Damiani for the gold medal in Los Angeles. But today, Damiani comes in with some pretty high credentials himself. He's undefeated against Tyrell Biggs, fighting for the first time in some 374 days, at least in the ring. He's been sparring a lot lately, but he did take about a 6-month sabbatical. Arnie, you got to ask yourself about Biggs. We mentioned heart at the top of the show, but he did show a lot of heart. But right now, can he get back to where he was before Tyson after a year layoff?
Well, I'll tell you, I say absolutely, and I say one of the reasons I say absolutely is I watched a gentleman fight the other night who took an even longer layoff and had drugs to boot, and that was Michael Doak. So I saw it come in at 220 pounds the other night on our fight from the Fell Forum in Madison Square Garden, and anything is possible. Tyrell looks fit, he looks trim. This is a perfect fight for both of them. It's a turning point fight, to use the cliche. We'll see what happens.
The winner,
getting ready.
The winner, of course, is in line for a shot at Mike Tyson, but as we mentioned at the top of the show as well, everybody in the top 10 is in line for a shot at Mike Tyson, and waiting patiently, I might add. Round number 1 underway. Of course, Biggs is sticker mover, and of course, Damiani more of a plotter, will try to get inside and work inside. Biggs has got a big frame, coming in at 6'5", 217. Of course, the crowd will be very pro Damiani today.
You can bet on that. A little more action than you might expect at this point in the fight. Normally a testing out period here. Huey, by the way, that was a split decision in the Olympics between the two of them. That's how close it was the first time around.
So it comes down to who's improved the most the last 4 years. And right now, Biggs taking the fight to Damiani. Of course, Biggs can do a lot of damage from outside. He's got an excellent left jab, good movement, and some people say he's not as aggressive as he should be with his kind of size.
I saw Damiani fight Dorsey Gaiman in Atlantic City back in June, and he's put on some weight since then.
Is it good weight?
I don't believe so. Take a look at his middle.
Yeah. Lou Duva told me that Biggs has looked sensational in training, so hopefully Biggs, after a 6-month sabbatical, is back very serious.
His jab looks extremely sharp.
Damiani landing from long range, but Biggs going toe-to-toe with him right now and keeping that jab out there very effectively. And some people say in that fight against Mike Tyson, Arnie, that Biggs lost his game plan after the first round when he stuck so well and moved, and then he tried to slug it out with Tyson. It's something you don't want to do.
Surprised everybody. He won that first round, looked very sharp, was moving laterally and had a great jab. And not quite sure why he dropped the game plan at that point.
Mike Tyson might have had something to do with it. Round number 1 of 10, the heavyweights. Tyrell Biggs against Francesco Damiani from Milan. Damiani getting some nice little short right cross landing in there. And he's done some decent work inside, but Biggs being sharper from the outside. The crowd cheering every Damiani.
What about that crowd over there? Listen to that. They'll cheer him for spitting in the bucket between rounds.
23 seconds ago in round number 1 of 10. Heavyweight contenders Francesco Damiani and Tyrell Biggs. Damiani trying to get inside. So far, Biggs been a little more effective from the outside. Ooh. Round number 2 of 10. Tyrell Biggs, Francesco Damiani from Milan on score. And first round scoring, Arnie, the crowd liked Damiani. Who'd you like?
I like Damiani also, although it was very close.
One thing I think American fighters have learned in at least many years is to win on foreign turf, you have to be not just good, but very good and impressive and almost dominant to win a fight.
Tell that to Pernell Whitaker. Damiani's, Biggs starting to get the range right now. That jab looking very good coming out here for the second round.
The quickness certainly in Biggs' favor, and maybe a little strength factor might be in Damiani. Now Damiani trying to get inside.
You might want to point out, although if Damiani should win this fight, Damiani should win this fight, he would get a shot at Tyson. I seriously doubt that it means a quick rematch for Tyrell Biggs.
Of course, the Tyson camp would think very seriously, of course, a lot of money over there should he fight Damiani in Italy.
That seems to be fueling who he fights. Between Frank Bruno and the rumored Addison Rodriguez after that, and Damiani, possibly Holyfield, where you have Witherspoon, Tucker, Carl Williams, all sitting in the wings, all ranked above these fighters.
Damiani trying to turn it into a slugging match, and so far this second round he's landed some effective punches, as has Biggs, but certainly the crowd definitely favoring the hometown, at least the home country man. Damiani not a bad counter-puncher, you know, in quicker hand speed than we thought, Arnie.
That's going to have to be his fight. If you've seen him fight before, you know he's not going to win it on finesse. That's not his game.
Damiani still landing the heavier punches. Biggs showing a lot more movement, but not as much aggression as he did in the first round.
A little under a minute to go right now.
Round number 2, and another good round for Francesco Damiani. Biggs throwing some wild lefts and rights, and Damiani staying a little more controlled here. Now showing not a bad jab. Not a nice left hook to the face.
The finesse that he showed in the first 60 seconds of the round seems to have just gone away.
Biggs trying to land that big overhand right. So far, the first 2 rounds, he's whiffed pretty much with all of them. The jab's been his most effective punch. Damiani's worked to get inside and landed some good combinations.
10 seconds left in the round.
Round number 3, Francesco Damiani, the Italian undefeated heavyweight, against USA hopeful Tyrell Biggs, who comes in at 16-1. That one loss, of course, coming to world heavyweight champ Mike Tyson. And the first 2 rounds, Damiani with the crowd. And how about the scorecard, Arnie?
Well, Damiani by a shutout at the moment. I thought the way Tyrell came out at the beginning of round 2, that he had, as I'd mentioned, found the range, and he died for the last 2 minutes of the round.
You know, Biggs has fought many times in his career almost on the verge of losing. He seems to be motivated a lot of times by a tough fight and the fact that he's given away so much. James Broad fight comes to mind when he was cut so badly and really had to rally in the late rounds to score the KO. Right now he is falling behind on the scorecard. David Biggs, excuse me.
As I mentioned before, no problem on the heart, but it'll be a lot tougher to come from behind in Milan than it is in Las Vegas.
Nice left by Damiani, showing punching power with both hands. Now the left eye of Biggs looks to be closing slightly. Damiani really rallying here. Some good combinations, very crisp, and showing better hand speed than I thought.
Yuri Biggs is fighting a fight now very similar to what happened in the Tyson fight. He's covering up. He doesn't seem to be getting off. His stamina doesn't seem to be there. And he seems to be catching.
Everybody wants to get a good look at Damiani coming in with an undefeated slate. And the big question, of course, has been his competition. But if he would defeat Biggs today, certainly that would do a lot for his reputation.
That's why. Very refreshing still. Whoa, Tyrell lunging.
John Coyle, the referee today, working some fights, worked the Virgil Hill Rufino Angulo fight over in Paris, France, so you saw here on Score. Excellent referee. Damiani trying to get inside, and so far he's done it effectively in rounds 1, 2, and now number 3. You know, it's amazing how accurate he is with the fact that Biggs is showing no movement right now.
None. Damiani, not known for his jab, is picking Tyrell's face apart.
Biggs, as we mentioned before, a lot of times he has to be pushed to the limit before he gets his act together. But right now, Damiani has certainly taken very much control of this fight. And I think it was a surprise to many people, including myself.
Well, part of the problem here you might want to think about is that Tyrell's never fought a fighter this size. He's used to punching down.
Yeah.
And somebody ought to tell him to bend his knees a little bit. because he's just standing straight up and taking these shots right on. He's never fought a man his own size other than Damiani in the Olympics.
A big flirt in round number 3. And Biggs, as we mentioned, see what Lou Duva has to stand in the corner, because I would think he's got to get a pretty good pep talk right now.
He needs one. We're over here, we see Damiani. He's got a slight cut under the right eye. They're swelling there. They're pressing on it. Watch this replay. Incredibly refreshing, though, to see 2 top 10 heavyweights go at it. There seems to be more activity in the second 10. You've got people like Michael Dokes, Buster Douglas fighting a lot, and then you've got Johnny Deploy, who, after a disappointing premiere in the United States against Ronaldo Snipes, went back and KO'd James Pritchard in South Africa, and what we understand, he'll be coming back to the States again in December. Looked real good in knocking Pritchard out, and seemed to put behind him whatever problem was occurring that night against Ronaldo Snipes.
A weird ending to that fight. Very strange.
Very much so.
Many people thought Johnny Deploy just essentially threw in the towel. Round number 4. Biggs, after getting a pretty good talking to by Lou Duva in the corner, will come out and try to maybe employ a little different strategy. And, of course, being on his toes would certainly help, and the movement would help. But so far in rounds 1, 2, and 3, he has shown a little of those 2 ingredients to his arsenal. And right now, Damiani, as we check the scorecard again, Arnie, looking pretty good.
3-0, and again, shades of Tyrell Biggs as he looked in the beginning of the second round. He's moving, lateral motion, up on his feet, good sharp jab, and we'll see if he can sustain it more than the first 60 seconds of the round. Again, if you're a dancing fighter, again, the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali, if you can't do that for the full 3 minutes, or at least a good 2 out of that 3, it's not going to pay off for you. You can't do it for just the first 60 seconds of the round.
And I think he did for the first 30 seconds here, and now he's standing still. Now Damiani catches him with a nice right cross, and back on his heels goes Biggs. You know, Biggs seems to be caught between what he should do and what he wants to do. And right now, he's not a slugger. He never has been a slugger, and he's trying to slug with Damiani, who certainly his game plan it is to get inside.
That's the only plan available to Damiani, because I think he's got limited resources.
You know, impressively about Damiani is the fact that his punches are short, but they're, you know, he's not looping them. They're very tight punches, and they're getting inside and doing some damage. I think eventually it's going to wear down Biggs unless he shows something here. Combinations being yelled from the American corner, and really Biggs has shown little combinations. A 1- and 2-stick jab, and that's about it. On a wild left hand. Biggs showing a lot of aggression, and now the punches are starting to land a little better.
Important to point out, you know, where we talked about the top 10 heavyweights haven't fought each other, we finally have one. But it's a situation for Tyrell Biggs. It's his first fight back after losing to Mike Tyson, and a real tough one. There's a lot of ring rust out there right now on him. And perhaps he shouldn't have taken a fight this tough on his first comeback.
Damiani landing the big right over the glove, and trying to just muscle Biggs into the corner. As we said, Damiani, a big man, coming in at 6'5". So certainly, as we mentioned before, Biggs always looking down, but today, Biggs taunting Damiani to bring it on, and he does, landing a big right hand, rocking Biggs, and Biggs standing toe-to-toe with Damiani. I think it was a far better fight than any people thought it would be.
Biggs is taking some tremendous shots. I don't know how much longer he can take these.
Inside 10 seconds of round number 4. We'll come back with round number 5 after this. Baseball from Milan. The score brings you Tyrell Biggs and Francesco Damiani. John Coyle, the referee. And so far, the Italian undefeated heavyweight Damiani has shown a lot, and Biggs, after a very impressive first round, a sticking and moving, has not shown a lot at all.
Well, his right eye is looking like hamburger. It's bleeding. Definite shades of David Bay, and of course the Mike Tyson fight. The Bay fight, he was able to come back. Either this blood's going to wake him up, and he's going to really start to take the fight to Damiani, or it's going to be over real soon, because that's a very nasty cut. The referee was overlooking at it between rounds. It's in a bad place where blood's going to get into his eye, and right now he wasn't fighting that well with 2 good eyes. If he's blinded in one side, Damiani's just going to pick him apart.
As we see, Damiani continues to plod forward, and the first 4 rounds, now he's getting his confidence, and he's starting to wail wildly and landing on a couple of them.
What's happening here? They're sending Damiani to the corner. They're having to bring in the ring doctor to check out Biggs' eye.
Same eye with respect to David Bay.
In Milan, don't be surprised for the short, quick whistle here. That fight's over.
Fight's over. Damiani scoring the 5th round TKO. About a minute into round number 5, and the doctor said that's all she wrote. So Damiani goes at 22-0 with 19 KOs. The winner by TKO, and Tyrell Biggs, you have to figure Arnie has to go back to the drawing board for a long time.
Well, you can't help but be impressed by Damiani's performance. At the same time, you've got to question the management team of Tyrell Biggs. Was this a wise fight to take for his first time in the ring in well over a year? You watch action here.
Some big rights, and now Damiani with the crowd and his confidence really coming on. Just starts wailing away, and you see the nasty cut over the right eye of Biggs. And really, this is pretty much the scene you've seen the entire 4 rounds of action, because after the first round, impressive first round by Biggs, he showed little.
Well, let me say this. Damiani was impressive. If it was up to me, I would have never put Biggs in for his first fight this soon. On the other hand, what is your feeling, you? And you think, based on what you saw of Damiani, that he's ready for Mike Tyson?
I don't believe so. I just think, I think Biggs and Tyson are in 2 different leagues, and pretty evident, because one thing for sure, Tyson's going to punch back a lot from the inside. He's got greater hand speed than Damiani. I mean, one thing we all underestimate about Mike Tyson is, in fact, his hand speed.
However, dollars govern, and if Damiani, you can imagine the sort of gait that he can draw in Italy.
Oh.
Tyson asked to fight. He's got an HBO contract. Personally, I would love to see Damiani fight a few other people in the top 10 first. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight a Johnny Deploy. Bring Deploy over to Italy. Let's see how those two. I'd like to see him fight Tim Witherspoon.
I'd just like to see Tim Witherspoon fight sometime.
That would be it's the old thing. We see him on the milk cartons right now. Where is Tim Witherspoon? And Razor Ruddock, who's probably the most underrated and unnoticed of the top 10 fighters, can't get anybody to fight him. I constantly have his management team calling up and saying they want him to fight. They cannot get an opponent for Razor Ruddock. I'd like to see him fight Michael Dukes. But the reality is, we go through Chavez over Ramirez. There's a lot in store.
Parky. That's what you don't want to do, drop your guard, because Deploy will come forward at you, as he's now doing. Deploy coming forward aggressively. And Parky taking a tremendous amount of punishment. Oh! A bad one, hit his head badly. He'll never get up from that one.
With tough Americans like David Bay and James Tillis being brought in at great expense to test Johnny, he duly obliged and kept on winning until he came against former WBA heavyweight champion Mike Weaver and was stopped in the 7th round.
Really happened. He bust his hand up.
Well, he seemed to be driving into Deploy, and now that's a body shot. Was that low? I didn't see it.
Body shot there that goes down low, and Dan Christodoulou allows the boxing.
Under no foul rule, he's giving Deploy time to recover. It must have been a low blow.
A piece of ice has dropped on the canvas there, is what I can see. A very strange thing to happen. A bit of ice falling on the canvas.
Okay, time out.
Back on again we go. And certainly Weaver throwing a lot of good body punches into Deploy, and Deploy's taking another one. Now, what is that?
That's not the way he's going to win this fight, surely. The no foul rule applies here. The referee would have to be really convinced that Deploy is badly hurt. In fact, he can give him 5 minutes in which to recover if necessary.
Danny Christodoulou not happy about that. He seems to be hurt somewhere on the line as well.
Is it his arm?
And by the time we took the glove off,
you couldn't see his knuckles at all. It was like a cushion.
Johnny came back to stop James Broad, and in a return with Mike Weaver, looked sensational in avenging his only defeat with a devastating second-round knockout.
He doesn't want to go wild. He doesn't want to take the chance of punching himself out, because that's what he did in the first fight in the third round. But meanwhile, Weaver probably is recovering.